It is good to see you. I am glad Wednesday nights are back. I miss Wednesday nights. I miss being here. I miss the energy. And I love being here, and I've told you that, and I mean that. And your being here makes it all the more special. So I'm happy Wednesday nights are here. Good evening, buddy. Good to see you from the thriving metropolis of Turtle Creek. And buddy just wants everyone to know his house is 88 degrees. What? Oh, well, maybe his house is 88 degrees, and he's telling me his air conditioning's not working. That could be what he's saying. I don't know. Buddy, here's the question from the crowd. Is your air conditioner working? I feel like a mystery movie or something. But it's good to be back. I just want to say thank you to all of you for taking the time and making the appointment to bring your kiddos. I know you guys are all very busy and tired, and that you're here means a lot. It means a lot for your kiddos. It means a lot for us. And if you're here and you didn't bring a kiddo, then double kudos for you. But glad that you're here. So, up. Oh no, he's just giving us an outside temperature update. He's the local weather guy in Turtle Creek. So, okay, thank you, buddy. Everyone was ready to leave and come fix your air conditioner. We quickly agreed that 88 degrees was entirely too hot for you and your bride. So, all right. So we finished up our summer-long sermon series. Does anyone remember what the title of the summer series was? Anybody? Little girl, balloons, running through a field. Okay. So we have three that are really close. I'm trying to decide who gets candy. Happiness is in the title. And secret sauce was this Sunday's. Right there. I'm giving it to you. Coming at you. All right. So the answer was how to be happy in Jesus. We talked all summer about the challenge of being happy. And we looked at what Matthew gives to us in the first 12 verses of the first chapter about how to be happy. And as we walked through those and we considered what that looks like in our lives, we talked about the challenge that living as human beings, as born-again sinners in a sinful world, how we tussle with that. And how it can be almost counterintuitive. On some of them, even some of them are a little more higher than others. But we talked about how to be happy, or to find happiness, or how to pursue happiness in the way that which the Bible says that we'll find it. So let me ask you this question. What are some of the pathways that the world says that we can find happiness? That we should find happiness, that we can pursue happiness then? What? Your career. Workaholic. No, I'll do it then. I'm not too proud. Thank you. Thank you for your donation. You need a receipt. All right. These were imported, so they were $1,000 of rolls. I shall enjoy your bounty. Our career. Now, we're not saying you shouldn't be ambitious or proud, successful. And I've never lived a day as a lady. It'd be very scary. But for men, our vocation, our ability to go out, kill it, and drag it home is wired real close to our hearts and our value. If we're not careful, it can slowly slide to the top of our pyramid of passions. But, our career, our vocation, it's important. It has a real high important value in our lives, not only, for providing sustenance, but also, adding to the joy of our lives. I hope everyone, enjoys going to work. Now, I realize that those are differing levels of what that looks like. What else? We have our career. What else do we have? Money. If you have enough money, well then by default you'll be happy. Now the problem is if you ever watch a show called TMZ and some of these others, that's not the case, it seems. Huh? More money, more problems. That's right. You know, you think about, right? You think about, you know, and I look at, and listen, I don't have a problem, one, about what people get. Listen, if someone will pay you that much, then all right, whatever. But somewhere, the cost on return goes out of whack. Because can you imagine living your life every day and wondering if every person in your sphere is only in it for the money? Can you imagine having to evaluate every relationship, friendship, everything? You know, is it about the money? You know, is it an angle? That would be a terrible thing. Or, you know, if you're so famous that you can't go anywhere. Listen, I got to tell you, that'd be terrible. Some people would tell you I can't go anywhere, but that's not true. But can you imagine if the only way you can go see a movie in a theater is you have to rent out the whole theater because you can't go if other people are there because you're just mom. I mean, think about that. But yeah, money, you know, money is a necessary evil. If we have money in heaven, I'm telling you right now, I'm going to be a little disappointed. I loathe money. And all that, it's a necessary evil. It's, Lord help me. Money is a necessity, but in and of itself, it's not evil. Having money, it's the love of it. So we have career, we have money. Anybody else have a pathway by which the world says we can pursue or should pursue happiness? Relationships. Yeah. Well, now, wait a minute, Jimmy. Aren't relationships important? Well, sure they are. Well, don't you say that you love your bride more than anything in this world? I absolutely do. Every day and twice on Sunday. But the way the world says relationships work and the way the Scripture says relationships work aren't always parallel. You know, and I'll use my bride and I as an example. So I like to use the triangle when we're talking about relationships, as it applies to couples primarily. But it also can apply to parents to children, grandparents to grandchildren. So if you can imagine a triangle, and I'll hold it up so Buddy and them can see it good. We begin down at the bottom, and as we spiritually develop towards the Lord, He's the top of the triangle. By default, what? The two sides grow closer together, right? Well, that's the way relationships work. That's the way biblical relationships work. The more passionate and the more discipled we grow into the Lord, the closer we grow together. Now, the world's idea of a triangle is inverted. It's this. You start at the bottom, and then when you get to the top, everybody serves you. But that's not the biblical. So, yeah, relationships, are they important? Well, sure. We all have relationships of some kind for differing reasons, sure. Anything else that the world says we should and could find happiness through? Material things. Yeah, material things. And one of the, oh man, I was almost on it. That's good preseason form. There's nothing wrong with material things. Just two things that we always want to answer is this. Is do they work for us or do we work for them? That's always a challenge, you know. If we've mortgaged the house, proverbially, we have to be very careful that we don't work for our things. You can have all the things you want. Just make sure they're working for you. And then secondly is that those things don't distract us from the most important things. And, you know, everybody has differing things. You know, it could be, you know, a set of clubs, which I need to get mine out. I told you on Sunday I actually swung a club last week and it didn't hurt. I was pretty excited about that. Well, I have to get my bag out, and it is in terribly dusty condition. But, you know, I don't go buy an expensive set of clubs because it'd be like putting me behind the wheel of a Ferrari. That's a whole lot of wasted Ferrari. Right? And it doesn't matter what it is. It's okay to have things. My son is frugal. Frugal. He's taking a little trip before he starts his career. And we were talking, and hey, Jason, good to see you from the land of enchantment. So he's going to Nashville. He's flying to Nashville. So he was looking at airline tickets, and for about $125 more, he can fly nonstop Dallas to Nashville and Nashville to Dallas. $125 less, it's Dallas to Nashville, Nashville to Tampa, and da-da-da. And I said, son, first of all, the way the airlines are today, you're rolling the dice. Second of all, how much is your time worth? That's the most precious commodity that we manage, isn't it? It's priceless, quite truthfully. We work because someone sets a price value on our time, but it's actually priceless. And I said, son, for $120 or so, how many hours are you saving? I said, you have to remember your time is anywho. So, but yeah, what we pursue in life, we trade for time, and that's always a challenge. Okay. All right. So we're talking about avenues the world says we can pursue happiness, but let's take a quick review of what the Scripture tells us. It says one is to be humble. Humble is not being a doormat. Have you ever known someone that they're just they want to be humble, and in that act, that desire for humility, they just kind of let the world run over them? I mean, is that what the Lord wants us to be? Thank you, sir. May I have another? No. Depends on who you're telling it to and what it is I'm asking for. Here we go. Yes, no. Oh, I thought he looked at me. Dropped it right in there. So, as believers, the Lord calls us to be humble. And you say, well, what does that look like? Well, look to Jesus. Jesus was never pushed around, ran over. But he also was humble and meek. And so we look to that. And we have to find a balance of that in our lives. And that can be very difficult. Because your work environment may be challenging. Your home environment may have challenges. But we have to strive to find that balance. In being humble, but being proud. I'm very proud of my vocation. I'm proud of what the Lord has allowed me to be a part of. But I also need to strike a balance with that, right? Happy are the hurting, and we talked about that, and that's probably one of the most difficult. The amount of money that is spent on pain relievers in our world. How do I know that? Because I spend it. It's amazing, and we try to avoid it. I had a great conversation last week, and this person is choosing to leave aside drugs and alcohol because they realized they were just trying to use that to medicate. And I said, back in my day, which was a few days ago now, but back in my day, what I would find is when I would choose that path, I always came back to where I started, and it was more often than not worse than when I began. And they go, yeah, there's a compounding interest in that choice. And so understanding hurting, and again, finding a balanced response to that. What are some of the challenges to the way we respond to hurting? What's a challenge? Let me back up. That's not a good question. Here's a question. What can influence the way in which we respond to it? That's a better question. What are some things that can influence the way that you respond to pain, discomfort in life? Fear. Yeah. What? Okay, so fear, that's true. But what does that look like? What's some of the fruit on that tree of fear? Anger or frustration? Yeah. Yeah. What are some things that we can be angry and frustration? What can anger us and frustrate us as it applies to fear? Why does it happen to me? I heard reports of an individual who was driving in another state recently, and they were cruising with the flow of traffic. And the state trooper, now this is not me, by the way, the state trooper, which invited them to pull over and to invest in their fair state, was asked this question. Well, I was just going with the flow of traffic. Why me? And he goes, doesn't mean you weren't breaking the law. And I know that's true because I have asked that question a long time ago. Yeah, why me? The age-old question, especially, you're striving, you're trying to do good, and something bad happens. Sure, why me? It's a perfectly natural response. Anybody else? It's a good response. All right. I'm sorry, say one more time. The anticipation of it, yes. Yes. Does anyone here not ride roller coasters? Has anyone here ridden yeah, anymore? Okay. Has anyone ridden one recently since you stopped riding one because someone wanted you to ride it? And that anxiety creeps up. Yeah. The last time I rode a roller coaster is because someone emotionally whipped me into it. Won't happen again. Yeah. Won't happen again. Won't happen. It was a long time ago, Ronnie. I was a much younger man, but yeah, the anticipation of the event, sure, because our minds can take it, and it may take it from a 2 to an 8. With Lindsay and all that we've been walking through, I got to tell you, it was a great deal of effort for me to maintain the reality that I knew, and not go for the possibility of what it could be. Why? This is what I knew, and I was going to do my best to try to have strength here for a lot of reasons. And if this is where we went, then okay. But I didn't need to go there. Someone asked me, "Are you worried?" I said, "Well, no, I'm not allowing myself to give over to worry, because worry's like a rocking chair. It gives you something to do, but it doesn't take you anywhere. And if I get worried and then I start, and then I'm trying to, you know how that will work. So we talked about the hurting. We're talking about being harnessed, self-control. Man, if the world ever needed more self-control, it's today. And by grace, we can have self-control. I like this one. Happy were the holy, the set apart. What does that mean to you, to be holy or to be set apart? What does that look like to you as a Christian in your mission field? What does to be holy look like to you, for you? Maybe a better word is this: is what about your life shows the uniqueness of Christ in your life, in your mission field? Okay. A desire to be obedient. Yeah. That's a good one. Anybody else? You already got one? Prayerfulness. Yeah. Hey, let me just pray about this. Or, I don't know. One indicator, if people perceive you to be spiritual, one good indicator is, does anyone ever ask you to pray about something for them? That's a very good indicator. Because if you're not a person of prayer and you don't seem to have that about you, they may not. Anybody else? Oh, I gotta get you. There we go. Oh yeah, I'm rounding into 4. Anybody else? What does it look like? Okay. Right. When you respond in a different way that is stereotypical of the rest of our world. That's for sure. You know, if we don't slide in and start chewing on the gossip biscuit, yeah, that's a good thing. And you know, as a teacher, I can't imagine. I mean, I know you've never had an irate parent. I mean, I can't even imagine. I know. I mean, I don't think any teachers ever have those, you know, or a disobedience to, or any of those things. But the way that you engage speaks volumes, because sometimes, you know, the way our world thinks most often is this, is when there's a disagreement, the object is to win the argument. Maybe be the loudest voice. Maybe be the most intimidating. Maybe be the most intellectual in your argument. When the biblical idea is this, well, let's answer the question. It's not winning the argument, it's trying to resolve the question. When we do that, we can disagree, so what's the object of our disagreement? Let's try to resolve that question. Well, we don't have to worry about who's winning. Because you know what happens when you win? Someone loses. Is anyone in here like to lose? No. We all have pride, we all have ego, we all have those things. And not only do we not like to lose, but we tend to wrestle against keeping those memories. So that the next time, you know, okay, all right, I lost this time, but guess what? Next time? Oh, so you came to a fist fight with a knife. Okay, I'll remember that. Next time, you know, we get into that one up, and that's always detrimental. I thought about this. So in my office, I have the privilege of having 2 menorahs. I am so excited for Hanukkah this year, because I'm going to have my own menorahs. I'm going to light candles. I may even buy a dreidel and play it with my... Anywho, if you recall last year, around this time at Christmas, I talked about Hanukkah. I taught you what Hanukkah was and where it came from. And I mentioned that I'd always meant to get a menorah, even twice being to Israel, and I don't have a menorah. And I was blessed with 2 of them. Now, we know that in the temple there was a lampstand, right? Now, what made that lampstand and the one that sat outside the temple different? It was the intent, the intended use of it. God set that one apart, what? To be holy unto the temple. This one over here has a purpose, has a value, gives off light, tells the story, all those things, but this one had been set apart for something different. And my friends, understand this, that as born-again believers, you are set apart for a purpose. We're not better than anyone. We're just called to be different in the way we respond, in the way we act, in the way we speak, and God has set us apart. And he says, you know, let the world see this uniqueness about you. And let me just say, you don't have to be odd for God. Have you ever known, and they just, someone knows what I'm talking about. You know, there's people that just kind of go out of their way just to show you, you know, you don't, listen, if you just try to walk close to Jesus, it'll show. They won't have any problem with that. And we talked about being healers and being harassed for the gospel. You know, none of us like to be harassed. But I'm going to tell you, if anyone ever says, oh, well, you're one of those Christians, I didn't get that tone quite right. Let me get this one. Oh, you're one of those Christians. All right. Yeah. Guilty. Guilty as charged. So that's an okay thing. So Sunday I used an illustration out of my own life, talking about the recipe of life. And I got to thinking about this. Now, ladies, I'm going to ask you, and men, I'm not trying to insult you. I go fishing where the fish are. Sunday's message spurred into my brain. I don't recall the last time there was a gathering of recipes. We used to call them cookbooks. Is that? Now, let me ask you this. Does that make me sexist? Because I asked you ladies? I did ask all, but I did kind of, but, okay, all right. Man, I'm telling you. Okay, so if I'm not here Sunday, So if I'm not here Sunday, then you know. Anyway. But I got to thinking, I bet you, and part of it's because I know Mississippi, there's probably a ton of great recipes that could be shared going into this time of year, especially on the sweet side. Yeah. Maybe, I don't know. I mean, all right. Well, I do love the idea of being able to taste them firsthand. Well, you know what you do, and you know what, guys? I'm sorry, I did. Maybe I did offend, because I can. Obviously, that night I didn't, but So. But I just got to thinking. I don't remember the last time there was a recipe sharing. I'm sorry. Say that one time. Okay, Cindy gave you. Okay, so see, now we're picking up momentum. Because I'm telling you, tonight when I walked in, I'm confessing now. I walked in and I knew it was taco night, and I walked into the kitchen and I saw lemon squares. I have not had homemade lemon squares at least since my mother went to be with Jesus, and she would make them, and she would make them quite well. And when I saw those lemon squares, I had one to see if they were in the neighborhood of my mother. And once I had assured myself, oh, they might live right next door, I had a second one. And I thought, well, if I eat a third one, then that's just what I'm going to have for dinner. Because, so, that's, You do. You got to have enough numbers to build a thing. So it's just an idea. Just throwing it out. So if you recall Sunday, we talked about the importance of the recipe. The evening I tried to make brownies and ultimately failed. I left out something that was, you could adjust that. I didn't have to use white cane sugar. I could have used other sweeteners, but I left it out altogether. And does anyone recall that we talked about in a recipe? Sometimes you can adjust for personal flavor, and then in some recipes there's something that's you can't change, or it completely changes, alters, or negates the desired outcome. Does anyone remember what one of those two Bible college words were? See? Orthopraxy. Orthopraxy is the way in which we do things. What are some of the things that I don't know. What is something that you value about the way that we practice church at ALM? What's something that you value, that you appreciate? The dress code. Okay, no, that's spot on. What do you like about the dress code? Okay. Yes. The simplicity of the dress code. Yeah. Be dressed. That's pretty, yeah. Now, but yeah. Now, is there anything wrong with, wearing a coat tie at ALF? No, not at all. One of these days I'm going to show up and just watch the mouse hit the floor. No, there's not a thing wrong with it. If that's what someone wants to do, great. No, listen, if you really want to commit to it, you roll that bad boy up here in the 4th of July week. Just sweat on out. But no, yeah, the dress code. And you know what? Part of the reason for that for us is this. Is how many people have you talked to over the course of your life, and you talk about church, and one of the very first questions you get is, well, what do I have to wear? Or, oh, I don't have anything I can wear to church. Yeah. Yeah. So, so, so the key to the orthopraxy, in part, is this. The threshold of that exterior door is about 4 inches, I guess. And the orthopraxy is what we have, is the room in which we have to work to make that doorway small. Because the adversary puts plenty of blocks in front of folks. Well, what would I wear? Or how about this? Well, I don't have anything I could wear to church. Well, what does that mean? Now, to them, they have this idea. Now, how they came to that idea, I don't know. Is it true, false? I don't know. But here's the thing. When you say, listen, as long as you come dressed, you're good. That 4 inches gets a little bit more narrow. Because it's yeah, well, they'll have to respond to it. What's some other orthopraxies that you enjoy about it? The music. What do you like about it? What? Okay. It's a blended celebration of music. I do too. You know, Sunday I went a long way from here during Days of Elijah. I went a long way from here, and singing that song as the last song before I get up. Before I get up, was a little tough. But anyway, yeah. There's a lot of things about the way we do church that has intentionality behind it. But the primary is this, is that anyone and everyone, we hope, could come here and find a level of comfort here. Because we hope to share with them the orthodoxy. And that's the flip side. I'll go ahead and give you the answer for that one. And those are the non-negotiables. There are non-negotiables in the Christian faith. But far too often the world wants to start with those as an excuse not to engage with us, and we want to start with them because we think they need to know that. Hey, listen, man, I just want people to come. Just come and be here and be with God's people and be around music and be around God's Word and just take a breath for a minute. And realize that not everyone in here is whatever the world says we are. Are we hypocrites? Yeah, we are. And I'm the prince of it. Do we fail? We do. You know, I had someone ask me recently. They said, you know, they're kind of new to us. They go, you know, you don't really talk a lot about money. So I talk just enough to remind you that ministry takes money. And we would really love for you to be a part of that provision. Because you know what the world says is, oh man, I want your money. Oh, that church wants your money. So there's a lot of things that we need to work on and we need to make sure on. And let's touch on this final charge. It seems like a great place given things. Like anything in life, we get out what we put in. And anything of genuine, lasting, life-changing value takes work. And whatever that is. And we talked about we must learn our skills. That's discipleship. We've got to learn about Jesus. We've got to learn about His Word. Oh, got cut short. They're on time. All right. I'm going to tell our evening class, our digital class, good night. We love you, buddy. It's good to see you. Hope you're doing well. We'll see you soon.